what is the best way to capture your prospect's attention when it's either over email or over the phone as well? How are you really going to sort of capture their attention and get them to engage with you?
So I'll give you an example. Again, this gets back to understanding something about your prospect that you know that they don't know, that could help them avoid a future disaster. So it starts with the perspective. So let me give you an example of a cold call that I received from Kendra Warlaw over at Gravy Solutions. So just for some context, imagine that you are a course creator like I am. And I take people's credit card information, and in exchange for that, they subscribe to my content or they buy my stuff, the Badass B2B Growth Guide or Tongue Tied, etc. What is it that she knows that I don't know? Or what she knows that I don't know is there's people that are trying to buy my stuff, but their credit card fails and they don't buy. And one of the ways I'm solving that problem is I'm maybe calling them up, or I'm following up, or I got some automated thing. The automated things suck because who's going to give money to an automated thing? And following up manually sucks because I'm a solopreneur and it's expensive for me to follow up, and I don't have that. I'm going to catch people on the phone or whatever. It's just weird, right? So she has a solution where they have an outsourced team that specializes in recovery, and they typically are able to recover about 80% of the revenue that's lost due to failed credit card transactions. That's a perspective. So from there, we can actually make a cold call. Here's what it sounded like. I'm in the car, my phone rings. I say, hello. Kendra says, hi, Josh. My name is Kendra with Gravy. I'm calling you from the drive-thru at Starbucks. We've never met, but can I speak with you briefly? Now, she was calling from the Starbucks drive-thru, but the idea here is ask for someone's permission to talk first. Hey, Josh, we've never met, but I was on your website. I was hoping you could help me out for a moment. And I said to her, sure, how can I help you? And she's going to go to part 2 of the framework, which is the problem. Josh, I speak to course creators all the time. And what we're seeing is that they're losing 18% of their revenue due to failed credit card transactions. And that happens about 50% of the time. Part 3. And I was just curious, like, how are you dealing with that? Are you like following up manually? Is it automated? Or are you using an outsourced recovery team to recover 80% of those payments? Very difficult for me to say I'm not interested after something like that, because she's not asking me, she's not value propping me, right? So now I think I said to her, I don't have that problem because I'm using Stripe. And she said, using Stripe? That's called a mirror, the slight uptone. I'm like, yeah, Stripe's processing all my payments. I don't really have, that issue. And she goes, well, I don't mean for this to come across as being too bold, but how do you know you don't have failed credit card payments in Stripe? And I said, I don't know. I don't know if I've ever checked. She goes, well, if you'd like, I could send you instructions on how to check. And if you do have it, we can continue the conversations. That sound okay? I said, sure. And she sent me a doc, showed me exactly how to check for failed credit card transaction payments. And it turns out I didn't have any. But that's a good cold call because she had a perspective focused on a problem that was making me bleed. Hurting me bad, potentially. She didn't know until she made the call.
Yeah, exactly. As well. I mean, how would you know? You probably wouldn't have known as well if those credit card transactions are failing either.
I didn't know till I wasn't even on my radar. I wasn't even thinking about it.
So obviously that's a cool example. It's a bit harder sometimes to get this across in an email and just to pique someone's interest. It's so much easier to ignore. How would you sort of format, I guess, that into an email? Or do you have another example?
Yeah, so I have a structure that I teach called 4T. So it stands for a truth statement, question that makes someone think, third-party validation, and a talk. So it sounds like this. Josh, saw that you sell a couple courses, the Badass Guide, Poke the Bear, Tongue Tied. How do you know that you're not losing 10 to 12% of your revenue month over month due to failed Stripe credit card payments? That's the sentence that's going to make me think a little bit. Third sentence is the third-party credibility. Acme and Beta are using us to recover failed transactions 80% of the time. It involves an outsourced recovery team. That's third-party credibility. The bandwagon effect. What are people like these people doing that I don't know that I want to be like? Like if I go to Boulder, Colorado, I go on Pearl Street and I see one restaurant with a line out the door and every other restaurant is empty. I want to go to that restaurant with a line out the door. So that's the that's that bandwagon effect in sentence 3. And then a soft CTA. Worth exploring. That's it. I mean, it's a 3 or 4 sentence email. That's it. Doesn't be that complicated. A truth statement. What is it that you noticed about them that relates to what you do? Why are you reaching out to them rather than everybody else? What's a question you can ask to make someone think differently? That's not a leading question. Third-party validation, and then talk. Does it make sense to talk? Worth exploring. Not let's talk for 15 minutes. That's like saying, can I meet your parents on the first date? Just worth exploring. Yes or no. And that's it. That's it. So it's the same exact thing, depending, doesn't matter what the medium is, whether it's email or a cold call. On a cold call, obviously you can get a reaction of somebody, but it's the same idea.